I will explain separately how to properly make a cover for such a backrest for a chair. On this side it is soft, and on this side it is hard. This is the front part. The seam on the two pieces should preferably not be in the middle, and certainly not at the front, but rather it should extend as much as possible to the back edge. For this, when we measure, we have a semicircle here and a straight line here, so the front piece will be wider than the piece that goes on the back wall. We measure with a flexible tape measure, allowing for a seam allowance of about 1 centimeter from the back edge, and we determine the width of the front part. Accordingly, for the back part, we measure, based on the back piece, allowing 1 centimeter for the seam. Accordingly, it actually turns out to be narrower for us in this case, like this. It is already about 3 centimeters for us. 3, almost 4 centimeters. We make the semicircles on top with the same radius. If we align them, it is clear that they are identical. The only question that arises is how, when we are stitching, to ensure that this transition turns out smooth. During stitching, when we very carefully place the pieces under the machine, we align them precisely in the middle and up to the edges, ensuring proper alignment throughout the process. We start stitching from the middle to one side, and then also from the middle to the other side. And when we are stitching, we are constantly pulling this fabric a little bit more, just a bit more. This way, when the sewing machine is stitching, we pull it tight. We pull it tight again, we pull it tight again, and our corner starts to align. The same goes for the other side. When we sew, we pull it tight, pull it tight, pull it tight, and the corner aligns as well. As a result, we have the backrest, and you can see that this will be the front part, which is rounded, while the back is straight, and all our corners match up. This will be the front part. Here it turns out to be more rounded. The back part is flat. At the same time, the corner matches. And when we carefully put it on the backrest of the chair, the seam ends up along the back edge. All around the back edge. In the front there is a neat semicircle, a tidy rounding. Here we have the alignment of the turning point, with the back being narrower and the front being wider. This results in a meticulously neat rounding, precisely. Another important detail is that this way a semicircle can be used to combine two covers of different widths so that they fit neatly even when the fabric has minimal stretch. This fabric is very dense with minimal elasticity. It is usually very difficult to achieve a neat semicircular shape with such fabrics. But if you sew as I have just thoroughly explained, and in the end everything will indeed turn out very well. So, let's take a close look at how such a stitch is made. Here we have placed the narrow piece on top of the wide one in the middle, and here we have shifted it to the very edge. From the middle we make the necessary allowance for the stitch. We secure the beginning, and then, when we start stitching, we slightly pull the upper fabric. Sew a few centimeters, then pull it tight again. Sew, then pull it tight again. Everyone came to the turn, aligned the turn on the upper and lower fabric, and then sewed a straight line to the very end. We repeat the same. On the other side, but this time we come in from under the machine. We adjust the thread.
And in the same way we start pulling a few centimeters and stitching, we pull a few centimeters and stitch. The main thing is to ensure that when you stop, the needle is in the fabric. When you pull, be careful not to pull the fabric out from under the presser foot. And this method works even when the fabric has a minimal stretch coefficient, when it doesn't stretch very much. But any fabric, especially diagonally, tends to stretch a little. This is how we ended up with a semicircle here and a straight line here. And don't forget to ensure the thread is properly secured and tightly fastened to the end of the sentence. Next, we have the following challenging task: to put on the cover correctly so that the seams are properly positioned. First, we turn it inside out and smooth it out. You can even just shake it like this to simply get everything back into its original position. Carefully. After that, we carefully and gently position it with the back side up and turn the seams to the front with precision. In order for the seam to be turned in here ultimately, in the end, not outward, otherwise it will form folds here. The seam should be turned to the front. And so we take it, turn it inside out, and in a careful manner, with precision and attention to detail, start putting it on. We pull it tight and periodically check whether it is turning inside out or not. Everything is coming together here. He is looking all the way over there, observing everything carefully. We pulled it tight, ensuring it was secure and firm. Then here we adjust it forward again, making sure it is perfectly aligned. And we begin pulling it gently and carefully like this. We pulled it slowly from the sides. We pulled it from the bottom. Upon re-evaluation, we observed the issue starting here, where it began to tuck in. We then pulled it back to its original position, and directed it forward, ensuring it followed the correct path. In a manner like this, once more we will pull through. We control with precision and gently pull from the bottom. And here's what we end up with. We've pulled it tight, and the seam lies neatly, and is smoothed out in the front, resulting in a tidy appearance in the back. We pull it as tight as possible and then start by tucking the front part in here.
We tuck the corners in there. You can cut off a little excess. First, we bend the backrest and pull it down as much as possible. And here we also fasten it with staples. Behind the chair, under the lower strip, these staples will not be visible, but to make them even less noticeable, you can use staples. There are light staples that are clearly visible on this fabric, and there are copper ones that are better for fastening on the front part. This is how we position it. We check once more to ensure that the seam is placed correctly. The dark staples on this fabric are practically invisible. Thus we made the backrest. From the front part, everything looks neat and beautiful. There is a strip at the back. It's at the bottom. This is almost invisible.
Мы сделали